Hello and welcome everybody to the webinar Leaders in Agriculture, Sustainable Agriculture. We would like to share examples of sustainable agriculture practices, focus on inclusive smallholder climate finance and innovative solutions shared by International Fund for Agricultural Development and one of our MFC members, PATRIA CREDIT from Romania, which has been recognized by Microfinance Center is the award leader in sustainable agriculture innovations in 2022 for projects and initiatives that support farmers in the transition to sustainable agriculture, promote the importance of agriculture education and non-financial support to farmers. The webinar is organized as a part of Microfinance Center activities and the SIFTA project. Let me first talk about our plan for today and our housing rules. Our webinar is planned for about 90 minutes that will include presentations from our 3 expert speakers, few polls, and we have also space for questions and answers. The webinar is going to be recorded. We invite you to keep your cameras on, but please keep your microphones muted. My colleague, Joanna Zhukowska, will be assisting you through the chat with any technical issues and make sure our session will go smooth. In case you would like to post a question or comment, please do it via chat or raise your hand through the dashboard under button reactions, and I will invite you to unmute and speak. At the end of the webinar, when you leave the webinar, we would very much appreciate if you stay engaged for additional 1 or 2 minutes to fill in our survey to evaluate the webinar. It's very important for us to receive your feedback. The survey will pop up to your screen when you leave in the webinar. I have a pleasure to introduce you our expert speakers for today. James Mark de Souza Shields, who is lead regional technical specialist in IFAD, and representatives of PATRIA Group, Iliuța Gitaru, head of microfinance in PATRIA Group, and Raluca Andreica, chief executive officer of PATRIA CREDIT. IFAD is an international financial institution which is a specialized agency of the United Nations, dedicated to eradicating poverty and hunger in rural areas of developing countries, invest in rural people. It increases poor rural people productive capacities, their benefits from market participation, and strengthening the resilience of their economic activities to climate change and other shocks. PATRIA CREDIT, one of the most important Romanian microfinance institutions, is specialized in rural finance, helping and supporting small farmers. This is a market of 1 million entities in need for microfinance solutions for the development, the biggest number of farms in the European Union. PATRIA CREDIT is first non-bank financial institution dedicated to microfinance in Romania, with more than 20 years of experience and more than 18,000 finance clients. Our speakers have a great pool of experience. Mark, next to inclusive climate finance, is also involved in both fintech innovation and blended finance initiatives worldwide. We also work in a range of sectors from inclusive finance, impact investing to corporate sustainability, including social investments, with experience in over 40 countries. Iliuța from PATRIA has been active in financial banking and non-banking sector for more than 15 years, specifically with sales, financial analysis, control, business development and innovation, team training, and management. He is directly involved in activities that aim at financial inclusion, increasing the degree of financial education, developing entrepreneurship, and rural communities. And let me introduce also our third speaker, Raluca Andreica. Raluca from PATRIA CREDIT has more than 25 years of experience in financial and banking industry. She is one of the first microfinance specialists in Romania, with grassroots stories and from the deep reality of Romanian rural environment. Raluca is a true believer and doer in the development of Romanian countryside. Let me also invite you to our upcoming event, which has also very interesting topic. All you need to know about ESG as a new reporting standards, which will take place on 29th June at 11 o'clock of CET. And we hope many of you will be there too. Before we go on to the presentations of our speakers, I would like to say a few words about SIFTA projects. SIFTA is basically a project which brings continuity to EasyTA program. The European Investment Bank under the InvestEU Advisory Hub reinforces the European microfinance and social enterprise finance sectors and provides supports to microfinance and social enterprise finance providers under window social investments and skills. Support is given through tailored trainings and webinars, peer-to-peer exchanges, and study visits on a wide range of topics related to financing micro and social enterprises. The project also delivers rating, assessment, and evaluation services provided by Microfinance Rating. Who is eligible? There are 27 EU countries who can apply for funding, for supporting through SIFTA, and the time frame is until December 2024 as the initial period of this project. Beneficiaries are microfinance providers, such as banks and non-bank microfinance institutions, social enterprise finance providers, such as investment funds, impact investors, incubators, accelerators that offer a process of widening their scope with a view of providing economic, financial support to social enterprises. The technical assistance team, which is responsible for the market development activities and capacity building services, consists of a consortium which is led by Frankfurt School of Finance and Management and its partners, Microfinance Center and the European Microfinance Network. As I already mentioned, rating, assessment, and evaluation services within the project are supported and provided by Microfinance Rating. Let me now give a floor to Mark to share his and IFAD experience about our topic which we are dealing with today. Mark, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay. I think this is the screen. Hang on a second. Okay. Oops. Let me just move this around. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Pablo, for the kind introduction. For quite some time, we've known of, identified, quantified the financing gap for low-income smallholder households. And for us at IFAD, that's farmers with less than 2 hectares. But in some of the countries that your members, the members of the Microfinance Network operate in, it could be a bit larger. Why is this important? Well, in addition to being a perfectly fine financial market, we know that smallholder farmers produce on average about 70% of the food consumed in most nations. And they are, in a word, vital for food security and national health. So this is very important. Yet, we also know that smallholders are amongst the most likely to face discrimination in financial markets, and smallholder farmers and their households are the most affected by climate change amongst the people in the world, and while being amongst the least able protect themselves. So what we want to talk today a little bit is about inclusive smallholder finance. Have I got the right slide up there, Pavel? I'm just thinking, hang on a second. Yeah. Just let me double check I have the right one. 9. Because we had a bit of a technical issue coming up. 9. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry about that,
Good.
guys. Just wanted to make sure that was
No,
working.
you are good.
Okay. So today I want to explain why this doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't have to be the case that smallholder farmers are biased in the finance markets and least able to protect themselves against climate change, and how financial institutions, inclusive financial institutions, can develop smallholder climate-related lending markets, and then finally how how some financial institutions show and give some stories, examples of how they're making good business, helping smallholders to finance effective and profitable climate adaptation investments. But first, and very quickly, because I think Pavel did most of this already, talk a little bit about IFAD. We're an international development agency. We're a special agency of the United Nations. We invest in rural people, working to increase their productive capacities and benefit from market participation, and particularly and increasingly strengthening their reliance of their economic activities at the household level to climate change and other shocks that they may be in for. We make sovereign and non-sovereign loans. And our portfolio since inception has lent about $21 billion in over 100 countries. And today we have about $2 billion in assets operating on our portfolio. We recently had a new rural finance policy articulated, and it has 3 main guiding principles. This is very important for an inclusive, for an international development agency. The first one is to promote people-centric inclusive rural finance, which means simply understanding what demand is, because if you don't understand what demand is, what people need and what they want, what they can pay for, you will never have a sustainable product or service. And international financial institutions have been guilty of being supply-driven in the past. Not a good thing. We also want to deliver impact-driven catalytic market-building instruments, and that includes things like non-technical advice to the market, non-financial, technical advice to the market, to smallholders, but as well blended finance instruments and other activities in the financial sector, like building and supporting the financial sector enabling environment, which is the third principle that we included in our new rural finance policy. You can check that out at our website. It's state of the art, I believe. Okay. So just very, very quickly, since inception, we've had about $4 billion invested in inclusive rural finance. The bulk of the financing support has gone to partner financial institutions. You can see that in the red scale there, the red pie chart. And then you can see below, since ongoing portfolio, that's changed a bit. And we've really started focusing more on what we can do for the customers and clients. But we've also started looking as well at value chain finance, that's the green, and a bit more in infrastructure and inclusive rural finance ecosystems. In this next slide, we'll see this is the region that overlaps a little bit with MFC countries, member countries. So we see the arrows there, that's under the NEN column. NEN, our region, it's easier to describe than to repeat the acronym. We are from Morocco through to Djibouti, up to the Balkans, through the Caucasus, and into Central Asia. So it's quite a diverse region. And you can see here that both since inception, which is on the left, and ongoing portfolio, this region has received about in our portfolio. And here also you can see that the trend of moving from the red, which is inclusive finance providers, to the yellow, which is focusing more on the clients, that we saw at the global portfolio level is absolutely true, even more exaggerated in the NEN portfolio. So in your region, we've really started focusing a lot more on the client side of the business. So let's turn to inclusive smallholder client finance. And talk about a little bit more about that directly. But before we do that, well, I think you're gonna master this and send out the poll. But the poll asks us, does your financial institution have an environmental policy? A is yes, we have. B is no, we plan to introduce it in the near future. And C, no, we do not have one and do not consider to introduce one in the future.
Okay, let me launch the poll now. I hope everybody sees it now. Do you see it? Can you confirm to me? Yes, because the answers are heading up, so should be visible to everybody.
Okay, we'll give them a couple seconds and we'll move to the next slide, and I'll put it, can I put the next slide up? This is really nice. Okay. Put this down. All right. Should I continue, Pavel?
Just once, give maybe 5 to 10 seconds more for the people to respond, because I see the replies are coming in. All right, so let me finish the poll now to end the poll and share the results. So can you see on your screen the results? Mark?
Yeah, those are good results.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's for everybody, but I was experiencing little cuts in your connection. So, all right, please go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Yeah, well, we see that 60% of the 35 people that have responded to the poll, their institutions have an environmental policy. And saying, oh, well, this is pretty consistent. There's so much developing environmental policy and activities. So this slide that you see now is a total climate finance flows globally that we've seen over the last decade. And you can see it started in 2011 at 364 billion annually to 632 billion dollars annually. This includes all climate finance flows, so infrastructure, renewables, and as well adaptation. And we'll untangle these terms in a little bit, but that's pretty good growth, right? It's sizable growth. It's almost double over the last decade or so. But what we're seeing now is that if you take a look at this graph, we'll look at the need. You can see at the bottom left, the 630 million, and what we need to adapt is around 2021. So this graph's a little bit out of date. We need over $3 trillion to finance climate adaptation. This is all climate adaptation in the world. And by 2050, around $6 trillion. That's a lot of money. And in fact, so we're going to see environmental considerations being automatically adopted in lending, and they're going to be more complex and actually have greater impact through the financial system into the future. Let me just move to the next slide. In this slide, in terms of adaptation finance or finance that helps people or climate change. You see that's $330 billion available today. We're going to need 550 billion by 2050, of which, if you look at the pie chart onto the right, 26% will be required in agriculture. Now, that's all agriculture. That's not smallholder agriculture. And we'll just take a look here. In smallholder agriculture, the amount that we'll need for adaptation alone, not including renewable energy, is $4 billion annually. And today we estimate, and this is a rough calculation because the figures aren't readily available, we estimate that $60 to $100 million is invested annually in smallholder agriculture for adaptation purposes, of which 96% comes from public sources. So not a lot is being provided. And we have another poll. So we wanted to ask you, does your financial institution have a climate credit risk framework? Yeah. That's an interesting one. Yes, we have. No, but we plan to introduce one. No, we don't. And we're not considering. So if you want to take a second to do this poll, it's a very relevant question because both myself and Raduca are going to talk about this in our presentations, myself coming up soon. So we'll give you a few seconds. Get some nice responses there. Gotta love these real-time things, right? Ah, there we go. A little bit longer. Let's give it a little bit longer. You're slowing down. Okay, it looks like we're getting close to being done here. 18, 19. Oh, come on. Let's have some more responses. We had 35 on the last one. We want to get it up to 35. Okay, we're at 24, a little bit more. Pavel, you can let us know, I think, when we should stop the poll.
Yeah, I think 5 more seconds and then we stop it.
Okay, we got some.
Let's see if we can reach around the same figure as for the first poll.
I don't see why not.
All right. It's still growing, and
I think we should move on. We got 31.
All right. So let me share the results.
Okay, so we have 42%. So that's less than the 60% we had in the last one. 29%, which is around about the same that we had for no but plan to, and no we don't is higher. So that's an interesting set of results, roughly the same but a bit lower. All right, let's see if we can get rid of that. Okay, so my next slide, if you recall, I was talking about what was needed for small scale farmers, what was the size of the credit gap or the need, and it was quite large. And if you see here in this slide, you find that that 4% of climate adaptation finance is provided by financial institutions, principally domestic financial institutions, and in a lot of cases, these would be public development banks, not private financial institutions. So you can see that in this next one, and I'm going to go through these quickly. You're going to get a chance to look at them later. They're quite interesting slides. They tell you quite a lot about agriculture and finance. So let's just take a look at the next one. And you'll see here, again, on the bottom right, that very little funding comes from private investors. And I'll talk a little bit about a pilot project that we're having, trying to get more money into the inclusive smallholder finance value chain. But we can see there that there's very little. Most of the money is from international financial organizations, bilaterals, and national governments for the most part. So what I can say before I move into some of the specifics about adaptation finance and what is getting financed, we know that there is a need, there is a gap, and this represents, for the optimistic amongst us, a market opportunity, and so I wanted to try and take a few minutes to look fairly generally at what some smallholder climate adaptation investments look like and how they could be financed by inclusive financial institutions. And I think our Romanian friends will talk quite a bit more about their experience on really how it works in a financial institution. So I'll stay one level up a little bit from that and hopefully provide you some motivation for what's going on. Okay, so so generally, these are some of the examples of what we have seen, this is at the most general level, what adaptation investments at the farm level looks like. We see soil investments, water, wind, shade, all the kinds of things you would expect a farmer to want to adapt to given shifting weather patterns due to climate change. Now, if you look to the far right, you see something interesting. A key investment is information. Now, we know information is costly to collect and difficult to organize in a way that gives you real actionable information. However, and this is often beyond conventional financial institutions. It can take a long, long time to develop, for example, an understanding of smallholder agriculture, let alone smallholder adaptation agriculture. And I know Raluca is going to talk a little bit about that in a contrasting example. But some of the things that we've seen in some of the institutions that we're working with, like CropIn and Yahoo Solutions, amongst other fintechs, is a bundling of services. So you get agricultural extension, you get weather information, you get financial services, you get transactional services. And what happens is you're bundling these all together for cost efficiencies, no? And so, for example, you could have an app that does, okay, what's your expected weather patterns for this year? What are your required inputs for this year? What could be a loan that you might require for this? And they can provide all that kind of information. Some of it would be free and bundled into, the cost of a loan. Some of it would be individually priced. And so we're starting to see fintechs really start to investigate and pilot and understand what the market will actually want to pay for. And that's really important. And below on the far right, you see some risk measurement activities, and we're seeing more microinsurance for crop loss, for animal insurance, for harsh weather. And we're actually seeing, and this is a really cool one, and it's going to tell you where things are going, how creative things are getting. We're seeing a pilot of insurance paying women to stay home during heat waves. So when the weather gets over 50 degrees, can you imagine that? I don't know if anybody's ever been in 50 degrees. I have, in the middle of a field in India. And I'm telling you, you don't want to be out in that sun. And so they're paying women to stay home from the markets or staying home from the fields and or paying somebody else to go for them. And that's an insurance product that's being piloted. Very interesting stuff. So what I want to do in this next slide is take a look at some specific adaptation approaches and technologies that smallholders are actually investing in, and inclusive financial institutions are actually financing. So here I've just got 8. Now these 8 specific examples are drawn from a pilot that we're doing with the German fintech, Yahoo Solutions, in Sudan. I'll come back to that in a second. As you can see, there's a lot of different activities here. We have some that are directly related to the production methodology, so conservation agriculture, growing trees and crops together, and this sort of thing. These are more methodological, but they do require financing. They require financing to convert from what people are doing now into like permaculture, conservation agriculture, silviforestry, these kinds of things. Growing trees and crops together seems like a natural thing to do, but farmers don't change easily. They need to be able to get technical information. They need to be able to get new input supplies, et cetera, and these are all financeable. And then you see some other things that say like related to water, retention dams, mini retention dams. We've also seen lots of ponds being financed, ponds that do have dual purposes. They have shrimp for one season and organic rice in the next season, and the shrimp actually fertilize the rice production. We see mangrove forests that are being used for organic fish and seafood. And so we're seeing these kinds of things, and they're perfectly financeable, yeah? And also, of course, the classic is micro sprinkler and drip irrigation. But we also see interesting things like live fences and green roofs. And what do these things do? Well, the green roofs, for example, reduces the operating cost of the household, and that allows the farmer to invest more in their productive activities or their enterprise activities. Live fences have dual purposes, many purposes. Actually, they keep pests out. They provide shade and water and soil conservation. So they're pretty interesting as well. And in a lot of cases, these live fences have other they have a production, they'll take out the stalks, or they'll take out the leaves, or they'll do other things that will help them in their production. So there's some really great stuff. And of course, at the top, there's solar for heat and all sorts of mini solar stuff like for pumps or for heating water or energy. So these are just examples. And, you know, I mentioned at the top of this slide that we did this pilot in Sudan, and this was really incredible. We didn't know, you know, we had no idea how many adaptation loans smallholders were taking and what the use was for. And we found out that there were 150 types of adaptation loans. And this is in Sudan. This is in a very hard place to be a farmer, where climate change is hitting, you know, 3 or 4 times harder than it is in most other countries. So this is a really interesting finding. 150 different types of adaptation loans by inclusive financial institutions, mostly microfinance institutions, most of them making these loans without actually even knowing they were climate related, adaptation related. So really promising activity there. And I'll come back to our pilot in a minute there in Sudan. There's a lot of challenges, of course, challenges for making adaptation law. I mean, there's lots of challenges just lending to smallholder in ag, but some specific ones for adaptation, you know, real and perceived risks. A lot of institutions simply have no idea of what the market might look like for adaptation technologies and how they might be used. And if you don't know these things, it's pretty hard to lend for them. Yeah. And so in the case of Sudan, we also found, for example, there was no tracking of adaptation business. So they didn't know what the potential was for the business. So how can you develop a market if you don't actually know what the market might ultimately look like? And I want to just talk about another example really quickly here. We're working with a global environment fund innovation grant, along with BNP Paribas, the first largest financial institution in Europe, how we can actually get more money going into the inclusive rural finance value chain, if you would call it that, financial value chain. And what we're doing there is we're actually working to learn how to verify the greenness and certify the greenness of portfolios of smallholder loans. What will that do for BNP Paribas? That will allow them to report back to their shareholders and their stockholders who are increasingly demanding BNP Paribas invest in these kinds of activities, even in developing countries where they operate. But they want to have the certainty that the loans are actually green. And so we're working with them and some other partners to try and develop a taxonomy and a way to digitally verify the portfolios. And then, so despite a lot of the challenges, and I've just mentioned a few of them, obviously, a lot of the pilots that are going on in the world for adaptation technologies are with international financial institutions, partnered with financial institutions, and we're really learning quickly about adaptation loans. We've got a couple of big programs, one in East and Southern Africa and one in the Great Green Wall countries. And these are very difficult places to do work, as you can imagine. And so we figured that in our portfolio, in the northern part of our portfolio, particularly in Central Asia and the Caucasus, but also in Eastern Europe where we do work, it's going to be somewhat easier, still a difficult challenge. So this slide, I don't want to get into the weeds here because there's a lot of details and it's not as clear as I would like it to be. But in fact, if you go around the world and you look for adaptation products that have been specifically designed for smallholders, there's not a lot out there that are purely commercial. And so what I've got here is a list of things that we found in India. NABARD, which is a public development bank that has been working up quite a lot in this area for some time now. And you can see here, if you look at the middle bands, the middle row, you know, mostly we're looking at asset loans. Mostly we're looking at medium term, 2 to 3 years, some a bit longer. Pricing, it's not put up there, but pricing tends to be lower than production loans because they're longer term, but usually higher than conventional asset loans. So if you want to buy a small tractor, your price is probably going to be lower than if you want to get a want to get a set of if you want to convert, say, to permaculture. And it's interesting. One of the things that we found in the banking experiences that we've had is that it's easier to get an agronomist to become a banker than a banker to become an agronomist. And so some of the best examples that we've seen is instead of hiring a new loan officer, hire an agronomist that's tired of being an agronomist and make them into a banker. We got a great example of potatoes in Kenya. The agronomist came in and said, "Oh, what do we need here?" and went out and talked to the demand. And they said they were selling potatoes, a bunch of farmers in one region selling potatoes. They weren't getting a very good price for it. And it was a problem with their seed potatoes. So the banker said, okay, the agronomist banker said, we're going to finance some seed farmers with quality seeds that are certified. And they got the universities to help. And then they started selling those seeds to the other producers, and those producers then got linked up with PepsiCo, and they started selling high quality potatoes at a higher price. And we're seeing that with organic products, we're seeing that with bio products, we're seeing it with natural products. We're seeing this market grow. And so if you have an agronomist or a banker at least that knows a lot about this, there's big markets, they're easy to be there. And in this particular case, they have like 5 or 6 dozen different farmers now being financed. And that's a pretty good market. One thing I would caution you, and it's also an opportunity, I think, for some of the institutions that are here today, is some of these examples are listed have grace periods. They have longer terms or subsidized rates, and they're made available through partnerships with public sources of financing, like our institution, like IFAD, like EBRD, the World Bank, etc. And they're doing still a lot of piloting. This helps to blend the finance costs and de-risk the lending through technical assistance on non-financial activities. And that's a basic approach that we take at IFAD. Now, just to wrap up, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about an example partnership of this climate credit risk app that I mentioned. And the reason why we want to use a climate credit risk app is because it will allow us to get to scale very quickly on adaptation lending. And just to quickly run through this, the way it starts is you look at the prevailing current and future climate threats to agriculture, in a given location. And so storms, drought, flooding, extreme heat, and frost. Those are the big 5, shall we say, and then what you want to do is you want to say, how sensitive are borrowers to these 5 climate threats? And what are to animals, crops, and housing? And the way we do that, is we take all the information that is available in the cloud. So we get NASA information, we get International Development Agency and research institutions data, and this is massive amounts of data, and it all comes down into a loan officer's phone or tablet. They're standing there in the field, they're talking to the farmer, and they can take this data and say, okay, for potatoes or tomatoes or whatever crop you want, we can do a credit rating for the risks this year. Or they can take a particular adaptation loan. So say they want to do irrigation, drip irrigation, and they say, okay, over the next 5 years, this is your credit, this is your risk due to anticipated climate conditions, whether there's going to be increased heat, potential for drought, et cetera, and they will come up with a simple credit rating that allows the financial institution to understand both at the individual loan and the portfolio of loans, their risk for lending, say for potatoes, say for tomatoes, or say for solar equipment, whatever. And so that's how the app works. And I can talk a little more later about this. Here's our pictures coming up, sorry. And so what happens before we do that, or simultaneously to developing the app, what we do is we take a look at the taxonomy, like I mentioned earlier in the Sudan example. And so once we've had some experience, the taxonomy is finalized and created. It's regularly updated, and it's aligned with national strategies and provides a green portfolio check, which I mentioned in the example with BNP Paribas. Okay. An added advantage to this that we're finding, and I don't know if it's necessarily true with a lot of your institutions, but certainly where we're working in a number of countries, there's an added advantage to that. In a lot of cases, the loan application itself is not yet digitalized, and this is automatically digitalized, and the app can be integrated with core banking systems, obviously at an extra price. But the great thing for an institution like ourselves is we can take this app and we can get a dashboard that allows us to look at portfolios, individual loans. Well, we don't get individual loans. We get aggregated at the partner financial institution level. We get aggregated at the national level. So if we're working with several financial institutions or a regional or a global level, so we can take a look at not only the use of funds are for, but also what the performance of the portfolios are. And so this is a really important advance for us as a financial institution that wants to support more of this. And so with that, we have one last poll. So everybody sharpen your mouse. The poll question number 3 is, would your institution consider using a climate credit risk application like the one I've just described? Yes, or yes, we use one. B, we consider using one, and C, no, we don't have one and we're not going to consider introducing it in the near future. But before you answer that question, I want to ask you a question. How much do you think this costs per loan? You'd be surprised to know it's around $1, maybe less, depending on where it's used. So every time you use the credit risk app, it costs you $1, and you get the dashboard too. So let's just see. I want to see lots of people would consider it. How are we doing here? We're at 18, 19. We should get to 30, right, Pavel?
At least.
Yes, at least.
I'm optimistic. We have almost 90 people here, so let's hope we get higher number this time.
Okay. And I only have just a concluding statement to make, so we should get the answers in now. Okay, I think we're probably tapping out at 31. No, we got 32. Okay, 33. Can we beat the 35 on the first question? We'll give 5 more seconds.
Yeah.
There, we did it. We
did
it.
Here we go.
Yay. Thanks, guys. That's really impressive. Thank you very much. I think we'll close the poll because we beat the first one. Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh, I have this one slide left. This is more fun. This is what it looks like. This is Yahoo Solutions. This is what it looks like on the phone when they go out to the farm and they do a little drip irrigation or pond or shading. You can see it off to the right. This is the kind of things that they can do the credit risk for. And again, they can do it just for a simple production like tomatoes or potatoes in a given year. And you see down at the bottom, number 3 here, they can also do green microcredit verification. So they actually are working with us on the BNP Paribas innovation grant with Jeff. So you can see how this works. It's very simple. We trained loan officers in the Sudan in Arabic on how to do it. But then unfortunately, the hostilities broke out and we had to suspend the pilot. We had actually four loans made. That was it. We had it running for one day. But we're going to shift it to another country, probably Nigeria or Ethiopia, to see how it works. So stay tuned. And if you're interested in following in that, just let me know. What I would like to say in conclusion is that I think that we know that the financing need for smallholder farmers is quite great. And we know it's important because they produce a very large and significant portion of the nation's food. Yeah, of any nation's food. We understand how climate can affect farmers, and we know that that effect is growing. And it's also our understanding that they can adapt, and there's lots of technologies and methodologies out there for them to adapt. And more importantly, we know they can be financed. We've done a lot of real studies on the internal rates of return on many of these adaptation technologies. I didn't present that today, but we have really good demand level data on this, and we know that they're financeable. I mean, I wish that we didn't have this prospect, the prospect of a climate adaptation market. but we do. And organizations like your own, inclusive financial institutions, with mandates to help farmers change and adapt, are very well positioned to take advantage of this market in partnership with institutions like IFAD. So with that, I thank you very, very much. But one last thing I would say, I really appreciate, and I'm a big fan of the Microfinance Center. They do important work, and this seminar, I think, is also very important. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your interesting presentation. For people just to understand that we were trying to introduce some worldwide information and trends which are common, I think, for agriculture worldwide. So it's good that you highlighted a really urgent need of funding on annual basis for whole agriculture, but also for smallholder farmers, which is really huge, as you mentioned, up to $100 million annually. And it's really good that you also highlighted how important, how key is the information which needs to be collected and analyzed. So that gives basically the platform to analyze the impact. I think you also highlighted the importance of role of public development institutions in this process and hopefully engaging additional private ones. Through either fintech or blended finance solutions. And I think a piloting project with BNP Paribas is really good example. And this green portfolio check, as you describe, is really one of the top priorities for many investors, impact lenders, and different funds. And they are really looking how to make sure that their investees are able to provide this kind of information to them, because especially in Europe, as you know, they need to comply with regulations and legislations where they need to report this information. So thank you very much once again for your information. And I invite also people, if you have any questions to Mark, please write them into chat or keep them for the end of presentation. And now we give opportunity to present about PATRIA activities and their really very interesting activities within the microfinance sector to Raluca and Iliuța. So please.
Hello, I will start by sharing the presentation. Let's see, it's okay.
Perfect.
It's okay for you? So, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Iliuța, I'm head of micro in Patria Group, and I'm glad to be here with you. I'm very glad that we have a large audience. I bet at the beginning of this presentation, Raluca, that will be more than 100. We are almost there. I'll try with my colleague to show what our group do in Romania in a specific let's say economic landscape, and what we try to develop and innovate for sustainable agriculture. I will start with to share our slide. Pavel, if is something wrong or you don't saw something, please interrupt me if you need.
Sure. Go ahead, please.
Okay. This is Romania today. In the left side, you saw the urban area, which is with faster development, many investors which are interested of this part of country. And on the right side, you saw the rural area, which hasn't the same speed in development, but has a huge potential, considering that in Romania, for more than 40% of the population live or work in the rural area. And in that part, our financial group focus his mission and also his businesses to develop, let's say, this second Romania, and increase the financial or social inclusion. And in the next 40-50 minutes, as long as we have, we will about this we will discuss, and how we do in a sustainable way. Just a few words about our group. Patria Group is a financial Romanian group who has 3 entities: Patria Bank, Patria Credit, and also Patria Asset Management. Patria Bank is a local small-sized bank, but with a very good dynamic activity. We are specialized mostly on legal entities financing, but as service we are a universal bank. We provide services also to the legal entities, also to the private individuals. Patria Bank is one of the 3 banks listed on Romanian Stock of Exchange, with more than 100,000 clients. We cover almost entire country, with branches in almost every county in Romania. Or specific DNA, our DNA is in microfinance. Also, we have Patria Credit, which is probably the strongest microfinance brand from this part of Europe, with more than 20 years expertise in microfinance, focused on small agro businesses, with more than 18,000 clients financed, and with national coverage. It's a mention here that also the bank and the MFI has the same strategy if we discuss about microfinance. In the group, we had also a specialized management company who manage 5 mutual funds. So this is our group. And we'll focus the discussion more on Patria Credit, where more than 80% of our clients are in agriculture, and comparing with the bank, where around 35% of the clients are in the agriculture. The rest are in non-agro businesses. Here I will let Raluca to say a few words about Patria Credit MFI.
So, hello, I'm the CEO of Patria Credit, a subsidiary of Patria Bank, and I will present you our story in Romania. I'm a little bit intimidated after Mark's presentation with so big figures. We are just in microfinance. I hope you will enjoy our example. I will start with the statement. Let's say, I think, I mean, me and my colleague are thinking that the secret, at least in agriculture, is to stay there and to be there and try different things. And even I don't consider that we are the strongest brand in the market. This is also because some of my colleagues from Romania are here in the meeting, and I salute them. I consider that we are one of the most old brand in the market and dedicated to the same segment of small or nano. We call them sometimes nano compared with what's happened in Romania, but not also in Romania, also in Europe. And personally, Mark, I put the question before. Let's say I'm very interested in that initiative of Innovation Fund together with BNP. That's it. So we start our story, our group story started almost 20 years ago in '96 as a World Vision program. Foundation, and then a non-banking financial institution, 50% financing agriculture, 50% other microfinance companies, no personal loan, and we become stronger and stronger. So that's how in 2015 our shareholders decide to buy some local small banks to assure to our bigger clients some other services than just loans. And as I say, during the years, our flavor for small agro farmers remain stable, let's say. After our shareholders bought these banks, we became a structured entity, hoping to cover all the needs of microfinance in Romania, and kept this subsidiary PATRIA CREDIT just for small farmers. I mean, 80% for small farmers clients, and you will see why when we will talk about the Romanian agriculture market. In this moment, we have 83% of our portfolio agricultural loans, and our average ticket is around 10,000 euro. It's one of the highest in the latest in our recent history. And we have almost over 18,000 finance clients. We develop a specific business model in order to finance these segments, and we truly believe in this vision and position strategy, which is the same since '96. Can you move, Okay, thank you. So we will stay a little bit at this slide, which I like very more. Imagine Romania, which is the highest line above. We have like 32% of the number of farms in all EU, according to Eurostat in 2020. And we accounted for only, Romania, I'm talking, for only 3% of total EU standard output as agricultural standard output. So this large concentration in a number of farms in Romania is historical and heritage, let's say. This number is actually not farms in the commercial way of speaking. We, our internal research states that only 40% of this number are actually active or producing or having crops for other reasons than self-consuming. According to a recent data from National Agency for Payments and Subvention in Agriculture, as of the end of December 22, for subventions were registered approximately 800,000 farmers. So this is 1/3 of what Eurostat is communicate. Deep confusion in numbers, let's say, but this is for real. This is the number of farmers receiving subsidies in Romania, out of which 99.7 are very small farmers. I mean, 99% are do not have a legal form, and they are physical persons. Most of these farmers are very small. For instance, as concerns cereals, 99% are having below 10 hectares, or vegetables, the same, 99% very small holders, or a pomiculture in the same direction. What are these figures show also nowadays is that these segments in green cannot be financed by a standard bank. And this is why, because these farmers are not a classical physical person to be financed with some salary papers, but also not a classical enterprise to be financed by a bank, by a standard traditional bank, because they do not produce financial documents. So this market should be financed by someone, because they really have needs, but not only needs, and also opportunities to grow. And this is the market where we stayed, and we became a specialist in serving and financing this sector. Also, Iliuță, thank you. 40% of Romania, as Iliuță states, and the figures are still living in rural and small urban areas in Romania. Because of the figures on the slides before, what happens? Most of the big banks do not open agencies in rural areas. Some of them close the agencies because of high cost of maintenance. This conclude in low education, financial, digital, lack of support for people living in that areas, and farmers being forced to find other ways of financing for develop their business than financial institutions or banking.
Okay, so what we did and what we are doing for all almost 20 years. As Raluca said, we have many people active in agriculture with low education and financial education and limited financing possibilities. So what we did, we scaled the market, because to help the client to develop, he had to speak on his language, and the language in agriculture is different from the very small client to the large client. So first, I think what we did to make segmentation of the market, and
an inside segmentation,
Yes, it's
Sorry.
about our group, yes. And after that, to adapt our tools of analyze our people specialization to this segmentation. Like I said, to speak on the client language. From practical, we saw that the difference is huge between a 50 hectares client and 5,000 hectare client. That's why we focused on the very small client, mainly in the PATRIA CREDIT MFI, and for small and large client in the bank, where also because their needs are more than a loan, they need more products. They have to use a current account. They need a letter of guarantees. Many of them implement EU fund project. So the need of financing and consultancy is more higher comparing with a very small client. And our group assure the continuity in development of the client, starting with a very small loan, and increase the client and provide all services and help them to develop how much he can, because it's a limit for them. So this was the first thing what we did to segmentate and also specialized our loan officer, our team to the specific segment. Also, we have, I heard about agronomist who became loan officer. Almost half of our bank loan officer has strong agronomic knowledge. With also in the other part on the MFI, we recruit our loan officer from the local communities, where they know very good the specific of the local business, the technology, and also the client behavior, and it's easy to help them to develop, and it's also a matter of trust in that rural part. We put here some numbers, because we said, okay, let's put also some numbers to see in a parallel how this microfinance function in MFI and continue in the bank, and we choose to put the information regarding the client who had easy loans or loans with easy guarantee. We have a strong partnership with EIF, and this partnership will continue. So considering that are the most specific microfinance client, we consider very relevant this figure to show how which is the impact and which is the continuity of our business, starting with the MFI, where a majority of them are individual agro producers with small tickets, with a decent percent of women entrepreneurs, 23%, and like you saw in with green, with 80% agriculture businesses. Comparing with the bank, where the client increase their business, they are enrolled, are making new step in their business development. Also, like I said before, the agriculture size in the portfolio is less compared with the MFI, but many of bank clients became from MFI clients. So they are clients who increase their businesses and develop in at another level.
If may I interfere here, Iliuța, we can say that the MFI is like a kindergarten of farmers for the bank. So our initial model was supposed to grow farmers to become bankable for Patria Bank or for others, depends on a case by case.
Correct.
Okay. So
how we do this, please, Raluca.
Okay. So how we are doing this after so many years of experience, we are still saying that we are simple, accessible, and fast. And we are not just saying this. This is just the results of the expertise we have, and with of the many fields of agriculture. And not only that, we recognize dealing with so many clients and having so many years in a row production, being witness to their productions or accidents or what happened. Our business model, it was introduced by Iliuța. It was introduced by Iliuța in the slide with segmentation. So we, after a couple of years, we started to make a specific approach for each agricultural clients. Depends on the type of production and of dimension. I have to say here that Romania, except for this specificity on big numbers of farmers, another specificity in agriculture is that it has a various. It's very heterogeneous, the agricultural environment, as the relief also. So we have a lot of crop agriculture, but also vegetables, animal feeding, fruits. So it was impossible for us to find or train people specialized in a type of agriculture, because we find it in the communities where we finance, that the specificity of agriculture is very local customers, let's say. And in time, we start to get data and to create our own scoring for it. And during 15 years, I think, this internal data became a fast-track scoring model. And in this moment, I'm pretty sure that in Romania, I can say on a spot where you can buy the tomato and with what price. So this is the data we get from the field. We are very important because the official information are not very correct and specific, and also are not very customized according to local specificities. Our business model, business specificity is based on a couple of characteristics. So we have customers, and I will read it because it's a puzzle, and we have to admit that this puzzle was constructed and is not ready yet. But I think it's a start, and it proved that it functions. Since in the last years, despite the crisis, COVID, Ukraine, inflation, our institution managed to have good figures and to keep growing with more than 20% per annum. So we have a customized client approach. We have a simple product. I mean, we have just one product, but this product can be designed by the loan officer as the client specificity. So if we are talking about the crop production, for instance, we can you can have a minimum 2 seasonal installments per year. But if you are vegetable producers in the south or in Moldova, is different. In another part of Romania, you can have a minimum 4 installments per year. During these installments, according to the seasonality of the business, and according to the crop inside the soil, the loan officer is observing the visit at the farm. So during these installments, we are not perceiving any interest in any cost. We have few papers. We are inside the big process of changing all the system architecture, and since we are dealing with rural people, we state that we have to start digitalization in a small agricultural financing from inside, not from outside, and we try to reduce the number of processed or paper documents. We have specialized and experienced employees from local community. Nowadays, dealing with the general problem of lack of human resource in the rural areas, both we and our clients or the local rural actors are trying to find solution to employ people to work in rural areas. And we sometimes hire people, for instance, working in a supermarket and train them to become a loan officer if they have an experience in home agriculture, for instance. And we test them and we train them both in financing and in agricultural. This is why the developing of our system and internal scoring and getting data from all the farmers we have was very important, and we are trying to digitalize this and to create a very easy instrument to be used in order to finance that category of clients. We are not investing in premises or network, or we have very small agencies with very small costs, but our officer and loan officers and head of agency actually are working in cars. So at farms, we have a cashless activities. We are not working with cash. We are working with partners, both for many activities. We are working with farmers before or after the disbursement of the credit. There are big distances there. People do not have, in some cases, debit cards. They are working with cash, but they use some local machines or local providers to pay the installments or to send some documents. We have a centralized approval process. We have centralized back office, sales support, credit control, so everything. A specific credit technology and data, but also specific collection, because we are all dealing with the problem of collection. We develop a specific collection procedure, tactics in times, based on prevention, but also based on specific agricultural knowledge, and the visit to the farm for observing the status of the crop, of the production. Basically, these are some of our business model specificity. We say this is a scalable, this is just a beginning. We say that this is a road. And now I want to talk about green and agriculture and how we address this, because I'm just coming from another conference when we had this discussion in the same field, let's say, and there were some dilemmas. At least in the microfinance providers, but not only. I can say that also for banks, whether to have specific products for green or sustainable, or how you define sustainable, or how green are we or our clients. And personally, I think, and we are thinking that this green and sustainable cannot be a product. It's rather a process. Where we have to be together with our clients and to try and to keep trying a couple of instruments, or getting information, how to get to clients, how to get information for clients, in order to make the step towards green. In this moment, at least in Romania, I can say, because I have information also from other microfinance institutions. Introducing green as it's also very scary for rural clients, and is boring for urban clients to have this green. Everybody's talking about green. So what we try some projects, and some of them work, some of them not. We are showing here 4 of our projects with good results. Some of these projects are just at the beginning. Some of them were end because of the lack of results. But all these projects aim to help micro farmers to go in that direction of sustainable green farming. First, we tried, the first project I want to talk about is probably we already presented a couple of times, but I consider it as a success story. So together with the bank, a couple of years ago, we tried in the beginning to introduce POS, selling vegetables and paying with card. And we made a partnership with the local association of the public market. And we try to convince our clients who sell in the market to introduce POS, because urban people who came in the public market do not use or use a little bit of cash. And this was a real success. I will let Iliuța to give you some figures, because after this, and we receive a diploma from the local market, public market association of 10 years of partnership or something like this. Okay, so after this, after the first year or the second year, the results were very poor. But I think in the fourth or third year, some other banks or more clients started to use POS. And nowadays, for instance, in my market, which is Obor, everybody from Romania, which is a huge marketplace, I can pay with POS. So yeah, it was a great project, and it's still a great project. Iliuța, dacă ai niște cifre.
I will tell you some. I'll give you some figures, because the increase was huge, and okay, the project start for almost 5 years ago. We make a partnership with Romanian Market Association, and together we go in the local market to discuss with the agro producers, with many of them being our clients, to accept this way of paying, considering that the large supermarket were a strong competition for this very small client, and to be sustainable, you have to invest. So to invest, you have to sell. So we start this partnership. For example, in our first year, we had 8,000 transactions. This was our first year. It was I don't know, 4 or 5 months. Was just 8,000 transactions. Some of our colleagues said, "Oh, it will not work. People will not go with the card." But we continue, and in the next year, 40,000 transactions, again 60,000 transactions. And this year will be more than 100,000 transactions on this POSs. So more local markets start to be interested about this partnership. And for example, for this year, we have in plan to extend the project. We start as a pilot in few markets, in another 10 local markets. Yes. So this is the like all new or innovative projects. All start are harder, but after that, the client, our client, their client, see the benefits and are more attractive.
Thank you.
So this was our Banca la Piața, which is Banca la Piața means the bank in the local market. This is a Romanian name, Banca la Piața. We put this if we will find in that way to understand what it is about.
Some other project, thank you, Iulița. Some other project of us together with the bank at the group level are regarding the support of education in cooperation with World Vision, for instance, where we make some, or we find some actions for agricultural high schools, or we publish a film or do a series of educational video instruction in order to get a loan, or we co-finance some NGOs in order to support the value chain integration or partnership. For instance, Molțărănesc, this is an online market for vegetable producers, or a foundation for agricultural development in cooperation with Carrefour Romania in order to make easier the way to supermarket for our farmers, aiming here to create more association of local cooperatives of small farmers and to get bigger contracts from, especially from Carrefour. The last project I want to talk about, and which is a current project of ours, and we want to try harder, and it's a very nice project. We just finished a couple of months ago the pilot. It's the Intelligent Farm is called. And this is about partnerships with some tech agri providers. And this is our green project, let's say. So our transition to transition green project, and we want to invest more here. The project is about monitoring the crops. So we signed two partnerships, one for vegetable production and the other one for crop production, in order for the farmer to get some equipments for production monitoring. These equipments are collecting data from the greenhouse or from satellites, put the data into a platform, get some agricultural advice and graphics for the farmer. In the same time, the financial institution having access to this information. And finally, these partners signed some other partnerships with supermarket networks who which also have access in the system, and due to the transparency of the farmer, they are ready to sign contracts with these farmers, and we are ready to finance these farmers. So it's an integrated project. It's just at the beginning. Is very hard to be implemented. We had to buy these equipments on our name. We are now in searching of new resources of financing these equipments, and to convince the farmers that it is worth to be transparent in order to get more contracts from local acquisitor. And we consider that this is the pre stage before official authorization for bio product or for green production, whatever. So yes, we will invest in this project, and we will keep trying here. And the last, sorry, yeah.
Okay, just another idea about this positive environment impact, considering that this meteo station monitoring give the client enough information how to use more efficiency the resources,
yeah,
like I don't know, water or chemicals, or how to cover their greenhouse with more eco products. Let's say, I don't know if it's correct to say eco plastics, but with better or more friendly environment products, and this has a good impact on the quality of the products, with the efficiency of the the production, and also with make this product and this activity more green, comparing with traditional technology. And we are committed to increase also in this direction, with this project.
The conclusion is that because we had 2 more slides, but I just quickly present what it is about, and you can find the information in the presentation. Is that serving as an alternative financing institution, serving a specific unbankable segment, you have to find some non-traditional ways to get to these clients, which are costly, yes, and we are trying to find the resources to finance this, but in a way, we find a way how, and we measure this impact through this impact of microfinance, microcredit on the level of the communities, and is real. This impact is real, and I want to end here with the link to IFAD, and me and Ilivuță wanted to start, Mark, by saying that we are following your post on all the media, and you really have great information for us in agriculture. And this is great source of information for us, IFADs. Keep doing it. Thank you.
This was the last slide, Pavel.
Thank you, Raluca. Thank you, Luța, showing us that.
I will stop the sharing. Yes.
Yes, I think yeah. Since we will share the presentation with the people, they can read the slides for themselves about the impact. Thank you, both of you, once again, showing us the track of 20 years supporting agriculture in Romania, serving small farmers, smallholder farmers, and I think you showed that these rural smallholder farmers are fully dependent on MFIs in terms of getting support, in terms of getting financing. And I think you also show and you explained about the business model, which can be successful in such a situation, in such a conditions. And also highlighted few projects with innovation elements, which I think help, and you confirm it helped the small farmers to increase their sales, but also build a partnership with the buyers of their products. So yeah, and of course, overall, you have measurable impact, which you can prove based on collected data and information. So thank you once again for your presentation and inputs. And we have a couple of minutes for questions. So we have still a large audience with us. Thank you all of you to stay with us. And now you have the opportunity to ask or share your experience or examples of good practices, innovative projects, how you support sustainable agriculture. I was trying to seek any answer from you in the chat, but yeah, I couldn't find any question from you. So I'm encouraging you now to, take the opportunity and ask questions, whether from Mark or Raluca and Luța, or share your experience and your practices, which can be, useful for others. So feel free, through this reactions button to raise your hand or even unmute yourself now and speak up.
All right. No.
Seems that the presentation was very clear.
Hello.
Okay. Mark is raising his hand. So I have also one question for Luța, Raluca, if nobody else is interesting to ask any question. But yeah, Mark, please go ahead.
Yeah, Raluca, I have and Luța, I really appreciate the work you've done. It's an incredible amount of work and innovation, and congratulations to your institution. I'd love to learn more and be able to share some of the experiences that you've had with a lot of our partner financial institutions in your region. The question that I had was, you mentioned about transparency and getting information from clients, and we've been challenged at 3 different levels. One at the farmer level, at the client level, getting them to share information. That's difficult and challenging at times. One at the partner financial institution level, because they're not always willing to share information with us as we need it. And then finally, at the regulatory level, I mean, we had to work hand in glove with the Central Bank of Sudan, for example, in our climate credit risk app pilot. And I'm just wondering, what are some of the challenges that you faced that you can talk about at any of those levels that you think are important for other institutions to know? Over.
Okay, I will take Luța and then, okay. So yes, indeed, this is the biggest problem in introducing these projects. So I can say that there is a small portion of clients accepting from the beginning these transparency tools, let's say. But the issue here is first not to pay anything, if it's possible, the institution to pay and to put it there in their greenhouses, and to see some improvements, because these are small communities. Our luck is that our people, the loan officer, the head of agency, being from the local communities, have other impact on recommending such a techniques. So I would say that first of all is to keep trying, to start by giving them with a small cost or with a subsidy or something, to share good practices in the communities and to make some events, local events, and to use a local community influencers, let's say, if it is okay to say like this. We do not have good results when we come from town and with an agricultural engineer and they say, come on, you don't come here to tell me from the town. I'm here from more than 100 years with the same land. It's mine. I know how to do it, to deal with this. And patience. This is what I can say. As concerning the authorities and transparencies, I think it's our latest concerns, the authorities, because we have a lot of work with our clients, and usually some of the authorities, and which is not strange but unusual, is that nowadays some authorities or some local players like supermarket chains are asking us, what about this? Do you know about this? So we have data, we have information, we communicate, we are transparent. So we try to be a model by ourselves in transparency. Sorry for me. I think.
Thank you. We have one question.
Yes, from Mark, if it was enough, the answer is that's okay. Okay.
All right, thank you. So we have a question from Zoran Djukic. What impact do climate changes have on your clients in terms of loan repayments?
I will answer for Romania. I don't know. Probably in Sudan it's different, but considering that Romania is not let's say huge impact of climate change, but we have the draft in the last year was almost in every season. What we did, we have a solution for restructuring or postpone the installments, and usually after the client are adapting. So a client with has an open culture, from the next year he prepare in a culture in a greenhouse who is more protecting against the climate problems. Also, they adapt their culture to their crops to be more resistant. And if you are looking at the quality of our portfolio, we can say that the problem is almost solved from this perspective, because we don't have too many clients with delay in installment payments. Also from this perspective, from this reason. So
I could add that climate changes, we would say, if you remember, we had one big flow a couple of years ago, for instance, and we have a very specific collection strategy in agriculture. So for these cases, depends on the scale, we are able to restructure or to offer other financing solution for the whole group of clients affected by this accident. As concerning other climate changes, dealing mostly with vegetable producer with covered production, so more safety, let's say, we in this moment we are facing an increase of in a demand for loans, in a way that more of more of our loans are 88%, I think, Iliuța, at December 22 are done for investments, and
yes.
part of them are done for investments due to climate changes. For instance, change the greenhouse or make alternative sources of heating due to energy crisis, or make alternative or more efficient water pipes equipments in the greenhouses. And another issue in Romania is now with these chemicals used on vegetables, and I think more and more it just started, but more and more vegetable producer will start investing in the quality of seeds and quality of chemicals, and will need training for this, and will invest in accreditation or papers, or getting the certificate, bio certificate, in the near future, maybe 5 years, something like this. And there we want to be there for them to offer support. So.
Thank you, Raluca. We have another question from Ali Aparat. From a risk perspective, what is the reasonable percentage of the loan portfolio to be in agricultural financing for an MFI that is not specialized per se in agriculture? So, Mark, maybe you can take this up.
Well, I will, but I wanted to make a short comment on the last question as well. And I think Raluca and Luta had great answers to this. What we have is two kinds of climate impacts. Ones are sort of incremental change, and we see that particularly in the duration of the hot season, particularly in countries with lots of deserts. But we're seeing that everywhere, in fact, even in northern regions. And another good example is saline intrusion. As water levels rise in deltas, like in Vietnam, for example, the Mekong Delta, we're seeing increasing amounts of salinization, and we're seeing rice farmers switch over to shrimp farming, for example, and that's a method of adaptation. But then there's the unexpected events as well, and I think those are the ones that can be quite traumatic on a portfolio, because they're harder to predict, and they're more dramatic with covariant risks. So, for example, you'll have major flooding, which will cause complete crop loss, or 30, 40, 50% in your portfolio, not just on an individual farm. And so these kinds of things, we're looking at risk mechanisms like guarantee funds, insurance activity, these kinds of things. So these are really important things to do. To realize rather, so there's incremental change, and then there's the unexpected events. Now, I don't really have a big answer from a risk perspective on what your MFI should have as a portion of it depends on where you're located. It depends on the kinds of capacities you have. But if you're brand new to this, you have to invest in information, and you have to invest in what clients will be willing to borrow for, and also savings as well. What's the package of services that you can bring to a new segment? and I think that we've seen it all over the place. If you don't do your homework first, if you don't do your demand work first, you don't do your pilot first, you don't be careful about how you commercialize stuff. If you don't have experience, the chances of your success are going to be quite a bit lower and take a lot longer. Over.
Thank you, Mark. And Raluca, yeah, I see you want to also say a few words
thank you, Mark.
that.
Yeah, so for us, indeed, these incremental changes, at least in Romania, are not very visible. And since we are dealing with this safety vegetable producer, because they have these greenhouses, it's much more easier for us. Not as much as visible as in other countries, but we start meeting these changes. What is now happening in Romania is that we do not have insurance, for instance, for small agricultural, and this is very dangerous for us, and it's just for crop and just for from a French provider. So it's very weird because we are dealing with many farmers. And this is why it was a real help for us. And I don't know if we managed to increase the financing and the number of farms getting loans if we did not have this collateral granted by AIF. Because nowadays 80% of our loans are backed by collateral easy or InvestEU, and we are much more optimistic to go in the market if we don't have other ways of protection than this, because otherwise it would have been very difficult to keep staying in this market. Thank you.
Thank you, Raluca. Any other questions? Yes, we have another one from Christian. Aging of the farmers is becoming an issue, especially in regions where access to jobs are becoming easily available. What is the experience in other countries, how to engage the younger generation in farming activities? And this is from Christian Yuma from Romania. So probably the question first for Mark, having experience worldwide.
Yeah, it's a very important question, and thank you for asking it. How do we keep the family farms running and profitable? How do we make them more profitable, I think, is the question at this point. And, as we've seen a lot of different types of interventions, both commercial and publicly supported around the world, in IFAD, youth and promoting youth and women and a number of other themes are mainstream, which means they're in all of our programs and projects. And it's very important. And what we first have focused on is, technology. Youth like technology. They like to sell online. They like to get their information online. So anything that we can do in terms of increasing access to the internet, increasing access to the kind of information that's going to make their production and marketing easier and better and more efficient and more profitable, that's something that the youth really look to. Also, right on the farm as well, trying to increase the sort of the digital monitoring of the farm. Now, we work in a lot of places, like we work in Chad, we work in Vietnam, we work in Uzbekistan, we work in Georgia, so our experiences are different everywhere. But I think in countries, that are more like Romania, but in, say, Georgia, Uzbekistan, what we're trying to do there is simply help them get the youth seeing it as a real business. And so that's about entrepreneurship and about access to markets and about promoting online work. So and looking at the household, not just the farm, because most households have a variety of incomes. So how do you get remittances to support the farm household, et cetera, et cetera? So it's a very complex question. If I had the answer, it would be great. I would just say one last thing. You know, an interesting example that we're seeing in the United States, and I don't know if it's replicable in other countries, maybe in Eastern Europe, is we're seeing larger corporations come in and buy a lot of land, and then they turn around and lease it out to the smallholder farmers. And why does that do that? Because that takes the pressure off the smallholder to actually pay for the land itself. Now, I think in countries like Romania, it's being passed down, so it's not that question. But what's happening is that the larger corporation is providing on a almost free basis all the information that they need, you know, to do the things that they need to do to make a more profitable farm. So I think those kinds of things are coming, not in many of our countries, but maybe some of them. Over.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So our time is up. I would like to thank you, all of you who participated on this webinar. Thank you very much to our distinguished speakers from IFAD, from Patria Credit, Liuza, Raluca, Mark. Thank you very much for being with us. We hope that the participants found the information you were presenting useful and inspiring in their future work. And thank you very much again to all of you, and looking forward to meet and participate on another events, which will be organized either through SIFTA or by MFC. And please do not forget to fill up the survey, which will pop up to your screen after you leave the webinar. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.